All right, then I'm very excited, and I like to welcome everybody to our digital event, Build, Launch, and Operate Your Token. So my name is Vincent. I'm the founder of Chainforce, and yeah, it's really inspiring to see that we had so many registrations that really indicate this continued growing interest in the blockchain and tokenization. I'm very pleased and excited to be joined by Nestor, Fabio, and our host Peter, who all will be sharing invaluable insights throughout this session. And together we hope to guide you through the key steps in building and operating your tokenized business. And I'm confident that today's session is going to be a good learning experience for everybody. So I personally, my journey began around 2015 in the blockchain space, about the time that Ethereum turned their blockchain into a programmable, decentralized computer. Now, I come from a computer science background, and didn't took too long for me to grasp that what kind of an innovation and transformative potential this blockchain would have. With like new ways to unlock ownership and being able to establish trust in new ways through that decentralization. And I have been very passionate about it ever since, and about its potential to reshape complete industries and society as a whole. And that's why I've also committed myself to accelerating the adoption of blockchain technology by helping founders and businesses navigate this quick changing, dynamic, and yeah, I would say complex landscape. And this event is a part of that mission. And Nestor, Fabio, and Peter, they share that mission. So this is our contribution to helping you as a founder or an investor or a business leader to get onboarded and get a better understanding of the idea behind tokenization and how this is working out in practice. So yeah, we're going to aim to help you assess the opportunities and see how that can translate into your own business model and bringing your own businesses to market. So before we dive into today's session, I would love to get a better idea of like who we have in the room. So I've prepared a poll to get an understanding of your background, what your role is, what you're seeking from our event, and also where you're at in your journey. So right now I'm going to be, I think, launch the poll. Yes. And I would like to ask you to participate in it and select an answer for a minute. And I will share the answers as well, so everybody knows who's in the room with us. Yeah, great. I see a lot of founders, some leaders. Yeah, everybody interested in roughly the same things. Really nice to see. Cool. Yeah. Getting started, actively building. Yeah, people scaling already. Very useful. Yeah, thanks for voting. So as you can see, yeah, you guys are not alone, and I think that's comforting. So let me check. I'm gonna end the poll. I think most people have given their answers. So to recap, a lot of founders and managers and a couple of investors and others. I think everybody's interested in roughly the same topics. I think legal and compliance, business and token models, and token management and operations. So I'm glad we're hosting this event for you. And I see the majority is actively building or just getting started, with a few of you already having launched and still scaling. So especially those scaling, they get a thumbs up from me because it's been a tough time in the industry to build. I'll be sharing the agenda overview for today as well. I'll share my screen. And so for today, we have Nestor from Legal Notes, who will be who's the co-founder and the head of Web3 Legal at Legal Notes, and he has 8 years of experience helping tech and Web3 founders with their legal structuring, and he has worked with over 500 projects to date. And he loves working with innovative companies that he's really excited about, and also what Web3, AI, and other tech advancements are going to bring in the future. And he'll cover a regulatory landscape for tokens, highlighting dynamic nature of the legal qualifications, explore approaches to launching utility tokens, and comparing centralized versus decentralized models, and give you a better idea about legal frameworks for launching utility tokens, including key legal setups, popular jurisdictions, and important considerations at every stage of the tokenization process. After that, I'll be taking the stage on behalf of Chainforce, and we'll be focusing on how you can now engineer verifiable, sustainable token economies and what critical steps are involved in that process. And I hope I will show you how you can discover how you can transform your business model using crypto tokens. And if you do that, how to then design a robust token economy and use a strategic token framework to assist you in that. And we'll end the session with how you will be able to validate and optimize your model to ensure its long-term success. And after that, I will be followed up by Fabio. So Fabio is the co-founder and CEO of TokenOps. It's his second time as a founder and an angel investor. He brings in over 6 years of experience from the management consulting and consumer tech industry, with companies like McKinsey, joint ventures between Procter and Gamble, as a project manager there. So the presentation that Fabio will give will talk about the impact of unlocks with data and insights for tokens, remediation and upfront strategies that you can use, and also how TokenOps can be used to prevent and manage that process. So that's for the agenda, and I'd like to thank you all again for being here. And yeah, without further ado, I'll be also handing it over to our host, Peter, and he'll be taking it from here.
Well, thank you for wonderful intro, Vince. I think you've introduced our guests. It's great to see that we have 40 attendees. I see some familiar names, which is great. And I myself am actually looking forward to legal considerations as well as token investing. So I will hand it over in a second to Nestor to talk about the considerations for tokens and all the legal stuff which you can bump into in different regions. We will do it super simple today. Every guest has around 30 minutes to talk about it. I assume they will use 20 for the talk and presentation, and the rest we will use for the Q&A. You have the Q&A button where you can basically just open the Q&A and type in your questions. Feel free to do it during the talk. Feel free to do it after. It's no problem. We will try to answer all the questions, after the presentation, but there will be time for the Q&A, final Q&A at the end. So, if anything pops into your mind, just type it in. and vote for the questions which you would like to see answered the first, and we'll take it from there. So I will ask each of our panelists to do like a short intro of themselves anyway, even though I think Vince actually introduced you very nicely. So Nestor, the floor is yours. Take away the screen share and please just a short intro into legal notes and yourself, and let's jump into it.
Absolutely. So, hi everyone. First of all, excited to be here, and I would be very happy to share some legal insights within the Web3 industry, as this is a very new type of industry for very traditional legal space. So we will discuss some challenges and opportunities today as well. So shall I start sharing my screen now? Yeah, okay. So, all right, let me know. Yeah, let me know if you can see my screen now. Perfect. So before we start, just to provide you with a couple of details about legal notes. We've been working for the last 6 years to help builders to navigate this very uncertain and very complicated legal environment when it comes to token launch, protocol deployment, the building of decentralized application, etc. This our past experience helped us to build a substantial knowledge base of case studies and best practices. Some of them I'll be happy to share with you today. And by operating as the platform, on the other side, we have the network of vetted Web3 savvy legal providers from 20 plus jurisdictions, which also helped us to build a substantial knowledge base of this legal and regulatory insights. So the value that we can bring to the builders is to help them to navigate around pros and cons of the specific countries, specific frameworks, playbooks, approaches, etc. And we have a resource center on our website. So that's where we are constantly sharing and open sourcing these frameworks to the builders to simplify their building process and to reduce this entrance barrier into the Web3 industry when it comes to Web3 solutions. Just to be on the safe side, this presentation is not a legal advice, and that's a mandatory step for all legal presentations. But yeah, I think we are ready to proceed further. So as I mentioned before, today Web3 industry is quite new for the very traditional legal space, which means that there are a lot of regulatory uncertainties. There are a lot of open questions that haven't been addressed by regulators or by state authorities, which results this challenges for the builders because they can't be 100% certain that the tokens that they are working on or the protocols that they plan to deploy will be 100% compliant with the laws, because in many cases these laws aren't exist yet, and as a result there is this very high level of regulatory uncertainties in this space, which results also this issues with for not just for the builders but also for lawyers who usually also don't know how to approach the specific business models or new types of virtual assets. However, the goal of this presentation is to show you to share with you the approach on how builders and legal professionals can collaborate together to find the solutions for these regulatory uncertainties and challenges. And that's that's what we used to assemble the agenda for the legal part of this conference. So the first part of my presentation, I'll be happy to share some economical and technical details with the very limited specifics to this parts, and it will be highlighted just from the legal perspective. And then the second part of the presentation will be related to the jurisdictions, type of legal entities, and how these corporate structures might be matched with the economical and technical structure of token project. So let's begin. Generally, when it comes to token launch, the main question that usually that we always hear from the builders is related to the token legal status. And the most popular question is, can it be qualified as the security or not? And I could say that 6 years ago, or maybe 7 years ago, when the hobby test was applied to the tokens for the first time, probably it was much easier to answer to this question. However, since that time, like hundreds of case law appeared, and there were a lot of discussions in the legal space. A lot of regulators issued their guidances related to tokens. And today, the question about the token legal qualification is much more difficult, is more complicated, because there are a lot of other considerations rather than just simple scope of rights that are assigned to the tokens that the builder should take into account. And in this simplified matrix, you might see that there are two key dimensions or two key parameters that we usually suggest builders to analyze when it comes to their token legal status. So the first dimension is related to the token use cases, whether they are like pure software native use cases like gas fee or some network discounts or some other types of on-chain incentives, or are these use cases related to some underlying assets for the tokens, like in a case of RWA tokenization. And the second dimension is the way of how these tokens are distributed to the market. So basically, what are the types of the transactions with these tokens? Do they include token sale? Do they include airdrop? Do they include the possibility to burn the tokens or to make some buybacks, cash outs, and or just simply trade as tokens on the exchanges? So that's the second dimension, second parameter that should be considered by the builders. So let's dive deeper into each of them. And when it comes to the use cases, basically, if we speak about the utility tokens, the main use case for the most of the tokens that were qualified as the utility is to secure the network, to align the incentives of all of the stakeholders that are involved into this network. And as you can see on the slide, among such stakeholders or the token holders, we can speak about customers, we can speak about infrastructure supporters like validators, node operators, etc. You can also speak about the DAO members who are usually involved into the governance, and of course the developers or the core contributors into the ecosystem. So each type of the stakeholders have their own motivation to support the network. Each of them has their own goals and business objectives. So the main goal of the utility token is to align their motivations, align their incentives, and that's what helps to structure the key use case of the token as the pure software native utility use case. And as a result, this approach helps to avoid the risk of centralization of the assets. So basically, as there are different stakeholders and the tokens are distributed among them, there is no centralized entity which controls the substantial amount of tokens, and as a result can influence the network and decrease its state of decentralization. And this helps as a result to improve the state of decentralization and improve the legal compliance of the network as well. And when it comes to the transactions, which is the second parameter, it's important to ensure that the token cap table or token pools are structured in a way where there is no entity or person who might leverage a substantial amount of tokens to manipulate with the market. There is also importance to have the system of checks and balances, have specific vesting and lockups, and I'm sure my colleagues will share more details about it. But from the legal and regulatory point of view, that's the very important part as well. And of course, the transparency is the very important part, just to ensure that all the stakeholders of the ecosystem are aware about the way of token distribution and the structure of the token cap table. And when it comes to the, so that was the first part of the presentation that was related to the economical and technical details of the token launch. It was very important to start with this part because, as I mentioned before, token economical and legal structure should be aligned with the legal structure as well. There should be the clear explanations of each of the entities within the structure and each of the documents that should be signed in relation to this technical and economical specifications. So that was this first part of the presentation. And just to summarize, two key dimensions are important to analyze when it comes to utility token launch: the token use cases and the types of the transactions with the tokens. And now I'm happy to proceed to the legal part of the presentation that includes the types of the legal entities that the builders might benefit from when it comes to the centralized projects. And also, I'll be happy to share a bit more about the jurisdictions that are popular for builders and which might provide some opportunities for their tokens as well. So before we start discussing the corporate structures, and I'll have some slides with the organizational charts, another important detail that builders should think about when it comes to token launch is related to the underlying projects where their tokens will have the use cases. And among such underlying projects, there might be blockchain networks, infrastructures, different protocols like DeFi, decentralized identity governance protocols, etc. And that's the very important additional consideration to the token qualification, because it usually it also results the way on how these tokens might technically be launched. So on the slide, you can see the two categories of this underlying projects: the infrastructure projects, which usually include L1, L2 networks, some app chains and parachains, and that's the cases where it's very common to do a fair token launch, where there is no token pre-mint, there is no wallet which holds this pre-minted tokens, and there is no manual process of token distribution. Everything is done in an algorithmic and autonomous way, and as a result, the tokens are minted and instantly distributed to the ecosystem in a gradual way or in a continuous way. And that results the specific approach to corporate structuring of this project. And as you could see, the double entities legal setup is quite common for such infrastructure projects, where there are two entities. There is the company that is responsible for operations and for the development of the technology. And there is also the foundation that is responsible for the ecosystem development and for on-chain related activities when it comes to the pool of the tokens that is accumulated gradually as a result of minting process. In opposite to this, when it comes to applications, DeFi, SocialFi, decentralized identity, governance protocol, ZK, the most of them are launched as the settlement or as the infrastructure transmitting layers on top of the information transmitting layers on top of the infrastructure layers of the project, which means that usually these applications have their value accrual, they have fee pools, and they usually need to have this additional type of motivation for their stakeholders. That's where the more traditional way of token generation event is used, where the tokens should be pre-minted. There should be the entity that is responsible for the token distribution, and there should be the compliant processes of such transactions. Because if you remember, token transactions is another important dimension or important parameter for analysis when it comes to token legal status. That results a different approach for corporate structuring, which is a triple entity structure, where there are not just dev company and the foundation, but also the token company that is responsible for this stage of token generation event and the stage of initial token distribution. And that's how this triple entity structure work. So as you may see on the slide on the left-hand side, there is this operating company that is owned by the founders and the core contributors, and where the main purpose of which is to cover operating activities. That's the activities related to hiring, renting office, paying salaries, paying contractors, with the main goal to develop and open source the technology that will be then used by the foundation and by the validators for the deployment and for running this decentralized ecosystem. And when it comes to the right-hand side, that's the part of the corporate structure that is responsible for all on-chain activities, and where the token company usually is the token issuance entity. So this entity is responsible for the token pre-minting. This entity holds the wallet with the pre-minted tokens, and this entity participates in an initial token distribution between different pools and different stakeholders. And as one of the stakeholder is the foundation, the part of the pre-minted tokens usually goes to the foundation as the token treasury. So by finishing this legal part of the presentation, I would like to also provide the overview of the jurisdictions that are popular today when it comes to each types of these entities for token launch. So when it comes to the dev company, and just to make a small step back, the criteria for choosing the jurisdictions is related to the scope of activities that are supposed to be covered by each of these entities. And when it comes to the dev company, the activities of this entity are quite common, quite regular. It's just the regular software engineering activities or software development activities, which are in the most of the cases non-regulated, and as a result, which don't require this activity don't require specific considerations. So this dev company is usually registered in the country where the core team is based, because it's more convenient to open the bank account for this entity, to do some crypto on-ramp, off-ramp, and to pay salaries, to structure directorship, and to do some other compliance works. But many Web3 teams are distributed, right? So for them, it might be also the option to consider more like tech-friendly countries, including the UK, Singapore, Estonia, United Arab Emirates, and some other countries which provide a flexible regulatory framework for such remote company management. However, when it comes to token company, as this company is responsible for the token issuance, it's important to take into account that these activities in some of the countries might be treated as regulated. And therefore, generally, we can divide all jurisdictions into the onshore and offshore. In onshore jurisdictions like Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Singapore, token issuance activities might be regulated, and there is the high chance that they will be regulated there, which means that some processes of user verification, KYC, AML, custodial providers, etc., should be implemented into this process, along with the governmental authorization as well. where when it comes to offshore jurisdictions like Panama, BVI, Bahamas, Marshall Islands, that's where there is higher chance or higher flexibility for the builders to operate within the non-regulated space. And by finishing this overview, when it comes to the DAO company, usually it's either the foundation, and as you remember on the previous slide, the foundation is the ecosystem manager in the organizational chart. Such foundations might be also registered onshore or offshore, like either in Switzerland or in Cayman Islands. And there are also quite a new types of entities, which are called the DAO entities. Among such entities, there is Marshall DAO LLC and the DLT Foundation in United Arab Emirates. So that's also the interesting options to consider. And by finishing this presentation, I have just summarized this both technical and economical parts of the presentation, along with the legal overview of the corporate structuring. That's what we are doing in Legal Notes by helping builders to figure out what are the opportunities of the market, how does the legal and regulatory landscape look like, and which options for structuring their projects might work best for their projects. That's it from my side. I hope it was helpful, and I already see some messages in the Q&A section. So thanks a lot for your attention. Hope you found it useful for your projects, and happy to proceed to the Q&A part.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Nestor. That was really interesting. I see two questions. Well, one is basically organizational. Yes, you will get the link to the recording, so you will be able to watch it back. And the first one is actually probably for you because, it's about lawyers writing legal opinions which are not binding. So does it even make sense to still do it? Which I guess, I'll let you answer that one, and we'll see if others will pop out.
Absolutely, and that's a great question. Thanks for sharing this. Unfortunately, as today there is this very high level of regulatory uncertainties, when it comes, for example, to the US market, many lawyers are afraid of their licenses because if they provide and their professional insurances, because in case they provide the wrong advice, it might result some legal implications for them. So, and same in some other countries, which result the cases where these providers can either provide the legal opinion that is relevant at the moment of this of the issuance of this opinion, which means that if tomorrow there will be a new case law or the new lawsuit or the new guidance or regulation in the country, this legal opinion will become irrelevant. So I understand that some of the exchanges might expect this legal opinions, and that's how it might be obtained at the moment of this issuance of the document. But for the long-term operations of the project, it's better to focus not just on the legal advice, but also on the technical and economical details of the token to make sure that there is a very clear path to the substantial or sufficient decentralization for the project. That's what helps projects to mitigate the risks in the future. And for example, when it comes to the case of Ethereum, they had different stages of their network development, which resulted in different treatments or different approaches of the ACC when it comes to the legal status of ETH as their native tokens. So in the early stages, it was considered as the potential security. Then once they improved their state of decentralization of the network, they managed to convince the state authorities that their token is a pure software native utility token, which should be treated as the shouldn't be treated as the financial instrument. That's what this playbook is very important for other builders as well, because the risk mitigation strategy relies also onto the technical and economical parameters and details of the project.
Awesome, thank you. So there are two more questions which appeared, and I think we can probably, quickly answer them live because we are still on time. How would you rank Luxembourg? I guess, if you want to, Pascal, if you want to just be a little bit more specific, rank Luxembourg for what? Like, I guess, which type of company, it would probably help. But Nestor, what's your thought? What are your thoughts about Luxembourg?
Yeah, that's also the great question. Luxembourg is could be treated as the crypto-friendly jurisdiction as well. And as far as I know, this country is popular for crypto funds, for example. In terms of the token company, there are I'm not sure how developed this jurisdiction is when it comes to some best practices. Because when it comes to Switzerland or Singapore or some offshore jurisdictions like BVI or Cayman, there is a well-developed network of service providers there. There are auditors, there are accountants, there are corporate service providers who are experienced with setting up token entities and like implementing the compliance measures for this company's operations, which results some good like foundation for the new projects. When it comes to the jurisdictions where there is less number of such success cases, sometimes it might be difficult to find tax Web3 savvy or Web3 friendly providers. Also, local banks might not be very much aware about these types of activities, which might result some friction points when it comes to bank account opening, etc. So yeah, I can definitely say that Luxembourg is one of the option for crypto-friendly countries, but probably not the most popular one comparing to some other jurisdictions on the market.
Awesome, thank you very much. And there is one more question from Jonathan. Is it typical for DAO code to be the UBO, I guess, universal beneficial owner in a token company? Not sure if there is a straight answer to this, but if there is.
Yeah, that's also the great question. Thanks for sharing this. And it depends on how the how the builders want to structure their projects technically. So some projects are ready to proceed with regulated token entity, obtain token authorization in Liechtenstein, or file a utility token prospectus in Switzerland. And usually it's not reasonable for them to consider foundation as the UBO for token company. In this case, as token company becomes just the subsidiary to the main holding entity of the founders, which is the dev company in the most of the cases. So yeah, that's the approach that is used in case the team is ready to proceed to this regulated option for token launch. However, when it comes to more decentralized and as a result non-regulated way of token launch, the token company is usually owned by the foundation, because that's the approach that helps to proceed in accordance with this progressive decentralization roadmap, where the role of the token company is to pre-mint the tokens, but the end goal is to distribute the tokens among the different stakeholders, including the foundation, to make this ownership as much decentralized as possible.
Gotcha. Yeah, so that was actually a really interesting question. Thank you very much for that, Nestor. And there is one more question from Coffeenex, very easy one. Do you also provide help with token fundraising? I guess that might go across the board of the panelists, but that's your floor is yours, Nestor. I assume the answer is yes.
Yeah, so we are specialized in legal support for Web3 builders. So that's where our key strong expertise sits. However, we are partners of many ecosystem players as well. We work with a lot of Web3 accelerators and venture funds, helping their portfolio companies with their legal needs in multiple countries. And that's where we're always happy to make an introduction for the builders whom we support. But when it comes to the facilitation of some fundraising activities, that's not the part of our expertise. So I just want to be very transparent with that.
Very cool. Basically, you are not going to fundraise instead of anybody, but you will help them with the legal frameworks around the fundraising. Very good. That seems to be all the questions. We are perfectly on time. So thank you very much, Nestor. You guys, if you will remember any question which you might have around the legal stuff, Nestor is with us till the end of the event. So feel free to type the question in. Just, please indicate that, it's for legal notes or for Nestor, so we, don't get it confused with the others. And it's your time, Vince, to talk about the token operations.
Yeah, thank Peter, and thanks Nestor for that wonderful presentation. Let me share my screen like this.
And can I also ask just a short introduction to Chainforce and yourself, because there might be some new people who joined, and just to be sure that everybody remembers whom they are seeing.
Of course, thanks, Peter. I think my screen is visible as well now, right? Yeah. So yeah, my name is Vincent de Vos. I'm the founder and chief of tokenomics of Chainforce. And I'm going to introduce I have a couple of goals for this presentation. And before I introduce my company, I want to highlight what these are. So I want to really help you highlight the considerations when you build and want to bring a tokenized business to market, and show you recommended steps in that process with a focus on validating your token model in the context of your business. Learning what data is recommended to that to effectively quantify, assess, and optimize your token economy, and provide you with a level of understanding that the quantification of those models really require. So yeah, I'm the founder of Chainforce, and we're helping both founders and VCs in the blockchain space in different verticals. So we work within DeFi, Web3, GameFi, and Deepin to build, launch, and operate their tokenized business with confidence. And especially that confidence part is important because it's a complex industry. Token models are inherently complex, and we bring data and insights to get that level of confidence for you. So about Chainforce, we're a consultancy firm or tokenomics studio. Been operational for nearly 4 years now, and have a nice team with people having backgrounds from the computer science, computer engineering space, data science, econometrics, and finance, which gives us a very good skill set to handle different challenges when it comes to modeling and assessing token models. We've been working with 90 projects over the past 4 years, and those that went to market and are now operational have established considerable market caps and gathered sufficient liquidity to run their tokenized business. And that's something we're really, really proud of, and something we want to expand. Now, as a backstory or a background, I got really interested in token economics in 2016 when Ethereum made their blockchain programmable and turning it into a decentralized computer. And I understood fairly quickly that that would really open up the whole design space on how you can design business models, how you can design services, because you now have this decentralized way of trusting each other. And in my opinion, crypto tokens are like an incredible innovation that can have a transformative effect on any existing or new business models to date. And at the same time, these same crypto economical models or crypto models or tokenomical models, how you want to call them, while they have a high degree of disruption, they also have a high degree of complexity when it comes to implementing them. And that's where I hope my presentation will give more insights on how you can approach that and get yourself confident. So when I say transforming business models with crypto tokens or through token economies, I specifically think about ways that they can unlock new revenue streams, how you can now create new ways of alignment between and incentives between stakeholders. You can use these tokens to incentivize and bootstrap network effects through the whole, because all these tokens are connected through the DeFi landscape. There's also a lot of methods and solutions available to provide liquidity to any of your token stakeholders, while at the same time still creating this trust and transparency through the blockchain. And what we also see is, especially for DAOs and like full on-chain protocols, there's new ways of creating loyalty and involving token holders into actual governance of your ecosystem. And this is being done in decentralized ways. And this is how DAOs these days actually operate and go to market and become very successful. If we look at tokens in action, so because a token can be a lot of different things and it can be designed in different ways, a token can exist within different stacks of a business model or of an operation, and understanding how these tokens function across these layers and the kind of role that they take depending on the kind of business that you're building. It's quite important because they have a different focus and a different different objectives they try to achieve. So whenever, and specifically for the founders and leaders and investors that understand already this transformative potential, and they have now a positive judgment or positive outlook on the effect that crypto tokens or token economies can have, and that are looking to start building or investing into these businesses, we get a lot of recurring questions. And these are very intuitive questions, but they're also really hard to answer without the right information, the right data, and solutions to analyze them. So how do I integrate a token in my business model? And how can I then maybe structure even a token sale, or how do I structure a token launch even if I'm not doing a token sale to bring it to market? And how can I make sure, and how do I assess that token model, and how can I optimize it in a way that I'm confident bringing it to market? And what does it mean to bring it to market? Like what mechanics that I envisioned are now need to be implemented on chain? And I see these days there's also more traditional companies, not just only full on-chain protocols or blockchains, but there's business models using tokens that are also partially off-chain. So what components and mechanics are now being implemented on the blockchain and also have this off-chain component? And for that reason, we advise and have devised I would say a fairly straightforward process containing the critical steps you should follow to get confident when bringing your token to market. And that consists of formalizing, analyzing, designing and quantifying, and then validating and optimizing your token model. And one of the most important steps is the formalization, because a token and a business model and how to integrate it can mean a lot of different things. So it's important that everybody involved in your business is aligned on your expectations, your requirements, any limitations. And I'm really glad that Nestor outlined different ways on how you can structure this. How you are going to bring your token to market will also be a limitation within which the token model needs to be designed. And by doing this, you start by creating a shared understanding around what's the role of the business, what's the role of the token, how will they interact, and what do the interactions look like. And this is important for anybody involved. So whether it's your team, your community, your finance legal department, your investors, developers, and any partners, you want to have a formalized common ground of what it is that we're talking about. What's also important in the process is that you take a data-driven approach. So meaning make sure you have the data available to support you in your decision-making and to mitigate any risks. And there's different types of data, and they're incorporated in a typical token roadmap that comes from different sources. So you can do benchmarking and comparing your token model against similar projects or similar concepts in different verticals and learn what worked and learn from their mistakes. You can look at simulation data, which I'm going to tell you more about in a couple slides. But also looking at on-chain data to understand how protocols are interacting on-chain and understanding wallet behavior and learning how those can influence your incentives. Okay, one slide fell off. And with this formalized framework in place, understanding very well what the token is going to do and what the context of the business model is, and having a data-driven approach, we can actually now start thinking about designing an actual token economy. And what I've tried to do is try to express what a token economy, like running a token economy, is all about. And this picture, it's going to be a very oversimplification, because a token economy is a complex adaptive system with a lot of moving parts and different parameters. It's really an interplay of your token model in the context of your business model, generating revenue, and the open market, which consists of different stakeholders with different behavior. But in the end, it's all about how you create, capture, and redistribute value. And the way I look at that and how I try to make that understandable is by looking at it from a supply and demand perspective, where your business is constantly aiming to stabilize the inflow of tokens or your supply, while at the same time growing the demand so that any economical surplus, whether that is right from the start, after a year, or after 5 or 10 years, is able to be captured as economical surplus in token value. And if we look at token models, they typically dictate a lot about supply. What I've seen over the past years, they talk about inflationary rules, allocations, who's going to receive what tokens at what moment and for what reason, distribution and terms of those tokens, when will they be distributed, how many, to whom, and also any incentives and rewards. And that's all talking about how these tokens get into the market. And that needs to be matched with your business or your revenue model, where there's the demand drivers. So you have token utilities for that, like what can people use the token for? And if there's any revenue coming through the business which is not on chain, how can we direct those revenue flows into as a value mechanic into token value through decentralized exchanges or liquidity pools, and making sure that economical value is being captured in a decentralized marketplace. So having this high over understanding of how we could look at a token economy and what it is that, and how you can design that, the question is, how can we now assess this model? Because I see a lot of founders running around with a token model, or they found a model and maybe they have even been working on a model with reputable firms and people with a strong opinion on it. But then you have a model, and the question is, how can we assess this? How can we actually understand whether this model is helping our business or is going to be detrimental to it? So these are very common questions you think about or are going to come across when you want to bring your token economy, your token to market. Now you want to understand if your model actually aligns and supports your business objectives, like the milestones you want to achieve. And whether it's a model that's attractive and sustainable enough, both long and short term, for your potential token holders. And whether the token model sustainably can create, capture, and redistribute that value, as we just also saw. And if it's a revenue model in your business that's actually capable to support the way the token model is designed, and the model is not over inflationary so that you cannot maintain that token price. And if you go to market, like the first step, you launch your token, do you have sufficient liquidity actually to support those initial token vestings and token incentives and distributions? And then how resilient is your token model under like a different and changing market environment, whether that's a bull market or a bear market or whatever happens. So there's a lot of questions here that we can now start answering because we have taken a structured approach to formalize and define it. But now we need to start quantifying it. So we can now only answer these questions once we take the effort to quantify the token model. So we're going to look again at the same picture, but now with what's the work that needs doing so that we can actually quantify your token economy. And we can analyze supply by quantifying inflation and your supply and token allocations and distributions. We can also do that by incorporating different stakeholders and expected behavior, how your liquidity is managed, how the treasury is being managed, and what kind of value mechanics are in place. So that if we look at analyzing the demand, we then need to focus on the deflationary rate or your token's holding times, and actually mapping those utilities which is a reason why users want to use the token. We're going to actually map that utilities to how it will map to token demand, so that your revenue is actually generating demand for the token. And there's different ways to quantify and these insights or these steps. You can use spreadsheets, which is, I would say, for simple token models with a very clear design in an early stage. For some high over assessment, that's fine. But you can also use simulations, which allow for much more complex token models and allow you to have multiple interacting variables, different kind of agent behavior, allow you to stress test your token under different market conditions. And which ones you choose really is all about the kind of level of confidence that you need, what the size is of your project, what stage you're at, and the time and resources you have available for it. But I like to show you, based on the work that we do, the kind of insights you can get by simulating a token economy and how you can use data from that to really give you insights to optimize the model and get that confidence. So if we quantify a token economy and we simulate it, this is an implementation of a complex system, meaning we have a token model with all the different parameters around allocations and vestings and incentives and value mechanics. But there is also your business model, which has users and expected activities from these users in your ecosystem. And if they require tokens for that, they need to buy it, or how are they going to use it in the ecosystem? And how can you incentivize that behavior so you can actually like bootstrap some of those activities? So with this simulation, this is a Monte Carlo simulation, we can actually open up the bandwidth of the variety that we introduce at different levels. So what happens when you don't attain the growth you expected? If you don't have sufficient users in the early stages, will that be detrimental to your token economy? So what we can do here is we can, in a simulation like this, we can inspect over time and analyze how it is evolving. So we can really understand the dynamics and how your token model in the context of your business is going to converge over time using different scenarios. So whether that is quantifying daily fees generated or looking at allocations that are designated for incentives and understanding whether you have enough of those, whether it's measuring the liquidity pool balance and trying to estimate where the token price is going to develop into, or just looking at your treasury and try to understand its balance, whether it's a native token or others like a stablecoin or fiat or cryptos. And then also measuring how many tokens are now going into the ecosystem based on your incentives and based on your user activity. So this is the final step into designing your token ecosystem. It's about validating it and optimizing it. It's zooming in on these important data points, formulating and analyzing an opinion on it, analyzing it and formulating an opinion on it, and then using that to optimize your existing model. So it's an iterative process. And you use that also to balance your overall supply demand, where you will quickly see whether your business model is actually capable of keeping up with your token model supply and the inflation that you might have in the token of releases, of token releases every month. And what to expect also when you go to market. So estimating expected selling pressure based on your allocations and understanding the price impact based on the amount of liquidity that you have provisioned. So this is all possible. This is all, we're doing this every week with clients, and we recommend going through these steps and looking at these specific data points before you bring a token to market, because you as a founder have responsibility for running that token, and you probably want to have that level of confidence by being data driven. So that brings us to conclusion of these critical steps. And that's when you can start thinking about bringing the token on chain, having it developed, having it audited, maybe do any applications if you want to sell the token via any launchpads and centralized exchanges before you actually are going to operate your token, which Fabio is going to tell you also more about on how you can handle that. we also have partnered and worked with industry leaders, so they trust our models. They believe what we do is something that is the right way of doing. And yeah, I'd like to definitely hear some of your Q&A and get in touch if you think you need more advice on that.
Very cool. Thank you very much, Vince. There was I would say it was a little bit complex and looked complicated. So I assume the questions are sort of pouring in, but we can start with the simple ones. Satish is asking if you can help review a tokenomics model and if you should really do a detailed tokenomics, even if you will use the launchpad or like token as a service platform. I guess I know the answer to that, but floor is yours. So I'll leave you to answer it.
Yeah, so I'm not sure why using a launchpad would not require a detailed tokenomical model. It's more of a question, if you have a business model and you have a way that you want to go to market and generate value, you want to have it assessed with your token model, because if you have an inflationary token, that might not be able to be matched by your revenue generating capabilities. So it has nothing to do with the method or the way that you would bring that token to market, in my opinion. And I would, and yeah, token as a service platform. It's the same thing. It's going to help you design the token, but the question is, the problem is not designing a token. The problem is assessing and validating a token, and being able to understand whether your token model is going to be supported of your business, which is why quantifying it is such an important step.
Yeah, I think, was kind of obvious from the presentation, maybe even for Satish, that you should probably think what you want to do with the token while you are actually launching it, and how are you going to support it during its lifetime, because if it's not a meme coin, which I guess it's something Chainforce is not going to help you with, it probably should be on the market for a long time. And so, yeah, you should know what you want to do with it. Makes total sense.
Yeah, and I mean, for meme coins, they're a special case. We cannot be of added value to anybody launching a meme coin, simply because there's no inherent mechanics that will drive value. It's a marketing-based value, and that's not something we can help with.
Got you. Yeah, I think it's a nice segue to the next question from Alvaro, which basically is about how, in your experience, how much of the success of a token launch depends on hype versus having a good tokenomics design. And then there is a good segue, like a second part of the question: what projects do you believe are examples of good tokenomic design?
Well, it depends a bit on what you mean with the success of a token launch. You can launch a token with the aim to raise funds. That's only going to be successful if you can present the right token terms and have a compelling pitch. I would say a successful token launch is all about being able to have sufficient liquidity and being able to maintain a token price. And I think one example or one way to do that is by focusing on getting a fair valuation for your token, like really understand how much value it can capture based on your business model, so that you have an understanding of what's going to be an actual token price bandwidth that my token is able to attain, and make sure that you don't overflow the market with your token if you do not have sufficient liquidity. So it means either making sure you put a lot of liquidity out there, or you go with a model that already has some of the tokens readily available or slowly over time. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Alvaro, if you want to provide more specifics, feel free to do it. We can come back to the question. Yeah, I think most people, I guess most people imagine successful token launch as a fundraising event, at least, you know, in my eyes, because I come from startup world. In Web2, it's always, you know, this. So it's not that much tied to the price, but, you know, totally depends on the context. I will skip Pilot's question and I'll come back to it because I think Niall's question is very easy to answer and short. Is token validation a continuous process in your opinion, or once the token is launched, there is no need to revalidate and change it?
So that's a really good question, to be honest. That's why it's also important to really think about your process in being pre-launch and post-launch. Because pre-launch, you have a lot of influence on the big parameters and the big configuration, and you want to do proper assessment there. Once the token is live, you have a new situation because you're bound by already defined configurations. So then typically the emphasis is going to change, for example, towards optimizing incentives or optimizing value mechanics. And with that same simulation, so that simulation, once it's implemented, you can actually feed back on-chain data to understand how your model is going to behave if this is a trend that continues. So it is a continuous process, not so much to only validate, but to inform yourself in your decision-making around, I don't know, let's say changes to the protocol or changes to the rules of the system. And I would say then, yes, then it is a continuous process that once you're operational, you continue to do validation, but on specific questions, specific activities.
Right. Yep, totally makes sense. Simulations are my favorite, so you would definitely love any sort of simulation. So jumping into Elod's question, what is your opinion on tokenomics? Tokenomics? Do you feel like 80/20 model is really as effective as they highlight it to be? And you know, I'm totally blind here. I just read it because I don't know what's tokenomics.
So VE is a voted escrow model. It's your traditional kind of staking where you stake your token. You're gonna get back a different token, and that will allow you to have a vote. I think they definitely innovated the model, and it's something I see as a utility being applied to a lot of different token economies and token models as a demand driver. So I think they pioneered the way, and they definitely left their mark when it comes to an innovative approach to a token economical model.
So you would say that it's pretty effective, right?
I think it's effective as a demand driver. I don't want to say, but there are different ways to implement it, and there's active research to whether the way they did it, it's the most effective one, or that there is better ways that allow you to have a bit more nuance. Because what you see is that people also pull out the token over time once the rewards are drying up.
Yes. Well, you know, in some way, it may not be fault of the tokenomics design, but it might be fault of a project. But totally agree. How do you charge? I would probably say get in touch with Vince, but if you want to answer it live, Vince, floor is yours.
Yeah, so I think indeed the question is like how do we charge? What like how do we engage? Yeah, you can reach out to me and get like schedule an introductory call. We do bespoke packages or fractional consultancy where you get a Chainforce team member, a fractional tokenomist on board with your team to help you guide this full process. Yeah.
Very cool. Hope we answered your question, Desmond. And Alvaro is just clarifying that by successful token launch, he's referring to not being 90% dumped within a few months after launch. Assuming the overall market condition is steady, and I think, yeah, again,
Yeah,
back to tokenomics design.
Yeah, it's a good question. There's I think there's two approaches to this. One is design it in a way that that cannot happen. That's one. And the second one would be, well, don't give people a reason to then dump the token. So if you have a healthy, good proposition and you're actually offering a business or a product that holds value, then that token is an instrument to use it. So a bad business will never be saved by a token model. So you need to have a strong proposition in the first place, and the token is supportive of that and not the other way around.
Perfect. So we ran through all the questions. Same is true, guys and ladies, for what I said before about the legal things. If anything comes to your mind during the Fabio's presentation, where we are going to hear a little bit more about TokenOps, feel free to type it into a chat, and we will get to it at the end of the presentation and event. There will be space for like wider Q&A if we missed anything. And now I'm trying to get Fabio back to the camera. Wonderful. And so here he is. Floor is yours, Fabio.
Thank you. The last presentation is always the most difficult. People are normally asleep or left or dying. So
we are doing pretty good. Still, you know, over 30 participants. So people are listening.
Give me a second, because I think I have a little issue with screen sharing.
No problem. I would just ask again for a short intro on yourself and TokenOps at the beginning, so people who joined or rejoined remember, you know, who is talking about what. And floor is yours.
Thank you. So, okay, so now my screen should be shared properly, right? Great. So, yeah, introduction ourselves. So what we're building is a tool, a one-stop shop type of software to manage the whole process of token distribution, token investing, and token operations. So you can, for those that are familiar with US companies, some sort of Carta for crypto, and for those that are more familiar with Web3, that is similar also to Nansen in Web3. As a team, I'm the CEO and founder. I was prior to building this company, I was a management consultant with McKinsey & Company, advising financial institutions, fintech startups, and private equity firms on M&A and consolidation opportunities. Prior to that, I was in a joint venture between the life sciences arm of Google called Verily and Procter & Gamble, so on building smart products basically for the consumer market. And I started my journey in crypto in 2018, building my first startup there, which was a smart bottle that tracks how much you drink and sponsored the collection of plastic waste dispersed in the ocean by basically minting, recording the transaction of people drinking from this bottle on the blockchain as a distributed, transparent ledger. My co-founder is not here. He's super technically got into crypto back into 2015. He studied at Sorbonne University in Paris. So he got into the blockchain from the computer science research side of things, and since then it's been in the space, and we started this company over 2 years ago. So the topics I want to talk about today is basically the key questions that your investors and you'll have when it comes to launching the token and making it a success. Some of you have already asked some questions to the previous speakers. I'm taking the angle of really like the distribution and the unlock. So what are the right vesting terms? What should be the right supply and emission rate? What is the impact on price of certain unlock design actions, and whether there are any best practices for that? And of course, the last question is tools, which is actually what we cover with our company. So to start on that, I'll go on an overview of the research that's been conducted in the space about token distribution and investing design. And on that, I'll quote mostly the research done by Outlier Ventures, by two researchers, Akim and Robert, and by Six-Man Ventures with Carl and Mustafa. One watch out on all the data and the insights that I'll share. There's a lot of correlation in this data. Correlation doesn't imply causation. So all these are more like insight starters rather than strong statements. So all of this is basically not advice of any shape or form. It's just showing you stuff so that you can accelerate your thinking in terms of doing your own research. So both of these studies have I look at a very wide range of Web3 companies over a period of time in the last cycles, and how they manage their own vesting and distribution. And they both observe that there is a high variability in terms of both vesting duration, cliff, and individual unlock rate. So vesting goes from a range from 0 to 9 years in OV sample, and in Six-Man Ventures sample, it goes from 1 to 6 years, with a mean, for first research of 1.5 to 2 years, while for Six-Man Ventures, it goes into the 2.3 years. You can then, you'll have this presentation, so you can then, go and read the data yourself, and look at also the specific projects that they analyzed. What's interesting about this data is that during the period of vesting, so when the tokens is being released, it's being supplied into the market, projects suffer from a higher variability in volatility in terms of price, especially negative price pressure. So that means basically that mostly vested tokens, so tokens that are almost fully vested, have better price stability, better price performance than those that are mostly locked. So, and if you zoom into this piece of data and insight, you can also observe that tokens that have more private allocation rather than public allocations also tend to have better price performance and lower viability. What does that mean in simple terms is that when you have public unlocks or like airdrops, so like a large number of people, retail, receiving your tokens, that's normally coupled with more price variability. So people get the airdrop and they sell it. While what happens with more private allocations, yes, also investors can dump on you, but private capital allocators also have other means of doing that, meaning OTC desks, market makers that can sort of smoothen the price at which the token is sold, in order not to impact your project. And also yourself as project founders, what you can do is like actively engage with your investors to make sure that when unlocks happen, price stability is maintained, and you can also engage with your community in order to be transparent about about the price and unlock actions, to ensure the continuous success of the project. Another, common, it's already basically common knowledge now, price decrease before and after unlocks is a reality, but it's a reality only for unlock events that impact more than 1% of the supply of the token. So if you're unlocking less than 1% at a single point in time, you shouldn't have that much price impact. While in the 7 days pre and post unlock is where you see most of the price fluctuation when it comes to unlocks. As I was saying before, so the more private allocations have less price instability, and also the smaller unlocks have basically no impact on pricing. It's also coupled with looking at public unlock events. So for public unlocks, there is lower price impact on when those happen. And that's due to the fact that if you have an unlock where a lot of people are involved, there is basically many actors that are harder, for which it's harder to coordinate action in order to cause price instability. So right now, I've shown you like a bunch of data and already like a bunch of insights that you can already drive from this data analysis. Now, if you go more into what could be the best practices about this, I would say there is a 1% rule. So try to get your unlocks to be smaller than 1% of your circulating supply. So try not to get into a tokenomics model, into an unlock model where, after a year, all the seed investors, all the pre-seed investors get a billion unlock, because that means the price will drop at that point in time. So rather trying to smooth the distribution, so rather try to do second by second unlock rather than annual 6 months, like monthly vesting. Like I said, rethink the cliff. So, all these projects like cliff, like big cliffs after a year, tend to shoot themselves in the feet. So try to think of like a dynamic cliff model where, certain team or like investors get cliff at different point in time, so that you can smoothen this 1% volume in terms of unlock. And of course, the third one is the more your token is fully vested, the less price instability you'll have. So try to work on an unlock dynamics for which you reach full unlock or most token supply unlocked as soon as possible, because that will help with price stability and price action. There is also something else that you can do, which is more complex, and where I think Vincent and his team can help you, is basically creating an unlock schedule that can be dynamic based on certain ecosystem API. Pricing could be an example. So you more or less increase the supply or decrease the supply rate at which the tokens are unlocked based on pricing, so that you can use the supply rate as a lever to increase your price stability. This is a bit of an untested model, is a theoretical concept that OV came out with, and there is no like empirical research of anyone that has done it systematically. But I think that's where tokenomics consultancies can come in and help you to potentially implement these and monitor this implementation over time. And then when it comes to tools available in the space, of course, we're one of them. What we're trying to solve here is the fact that once you'll have to distribute and manage your token cap table, once you launch your token, you'll find 3 main issues. One is the need to set up vesting contracts, which will cost you engineering time and the preparation for it. to the control on these outstanding vesting schedules. So basically the monitoring and the smart contract audits that you need to do in order to prevent cyber attacks and to prevent your tokens to disappear. And 3, the visibility and all the compliance, which is what Nestor talked about at the beginning of this session. So keep demonstrating to legal and tax authorities that the project is decentralized, that there are different entities managing the token versus managing the technology, etc., etc. So for all these tools, there is basically, for all these tasks, there is basically that there were no tools until 2-3 years ago, until the last cycle, because the market size was, of course, too small for this. And CFOs or founders had to spend a ton of time and money on these issues. So what we're trying to do with our project is, of course, come up with a one-stop shop type of software that can help you with all these tasks, and also with a set of APIs that can help you with the flexibility of integrating our data stream into other type of tooling, whether that they are, accounting and compliance tools, or community management and data tools, so that you can be also transparent with your communities. So we have 2 tools basically. One is for project founders and one is for VCs. For project founders, you can do on-chain vesting, off-chain vesting, and basically monitor your token utilization and token distribution rates over time to also check that what you're planning is actually what you're executing on chain without mistakes. So the visualization of all the vesting schedules over time, the tracking of the token ownership, so what people are doing with your tokens over time, and also the automation of everything without the need to code anything. There are several tools in the space, so we're not the only ones. The other ones that you can check out are like Liquify and Magna. Magna, as Vincent mentioned, is also another partner of Chainforce. And they're also free to use token streaming protocols, so Superfluid, Stabler, Streamflow on Solana. So all these tools are available to sort of be used for free. What they lack is, of course, all the compliance, legal aspect, and also a customer service that that can help you with any issues that may arise over time. Just going quickly through a product. So what you can do there is track all the unlocks and the distribution rates on a wallet per wallet basis, and also look at the data in aggregate to see who you're giving tokens to, both in terms of individuals and VCs. And also, as I mentioned, on the price action, you can also monitor wallets in real time to see who is selling the tokens after the unlocks, who has claimed but not sold them, who staked them. So you can have a continuous feedback loop of data for you to adjust your tokenomics and token supply rate. We try to build the product to be as compatible as possible with all the free tools and open source projects in the market. So for our interface, you can pick not only our smart contract, which is a normal plain vanilla time-based escrow contract. We also have a second contract, which is milestone-based. So to help you implement the basically inflation-adjusted vesting, what they presented from OV, we implemented this smart contract where you can unlock manually tokens when you think certain milestones are achieved. So we can help you modulate the supply rate over time with at smart contract level. And we've also integrated with Superfluid, LlamaPay, Hedgie, and Sabir, which are the leading open source streaming protocols in the market. So you can both create those streams coming on TokenOps, or if you want to use their interface, or you want to start there because it's free, you can still at a later point import all the streams and custom contracts that you may have built on your own into our platform. We also have an airdrop tool, which can help you stay, AML compliant, because we can also use an integration with Chainalysis to prevent certain countries that are sanctioned from claiming your tokens. And we have also a module that allows you to vest the tokens over time. So instead of doing an airdrop all at once, you can decide to vest your community in the same way as which you're vesting the team and the investors, which again should prevent those price bumps that we talk about in the first part of my presentation. The rest of what we have is a claim portal where your token receivers can come and see their token allocations or their airdrop allocation. And there, what we're trying to solve here is, some of the, accounting tax issues that normally projects and project founders and teams encounter, which is, how much tax should I pay on the tokens that I received? So through our claim portal, you'll be able to see the price at which the tokens have been assigned to you if you're a project contributor or if you're an investor, and the price at which you claim the token at the time of claiming, with the timestamp and the price difference between the two. So basically all the elements that are needed by tax professionals in order to fill your tax declaration and tax returns. At the same time, we also have modules that cover equity and another type of token compensation, as well as the legal agreements that you may have with both investors and employees, so that through a single interface, you can manage all these headaches. Maybe less relevant for this presentation, but we also have a product for VCs. So your investors can also have a comprehensive dashboard, not only for your own token, but also for other tokens that you may give to them over time. Like the other guys, we work with some of the best companies in the world at the moment, from very OG projects like 1inch, CowSwap, Request, Morpho, which are among our first customer, as well as some layer 1s and layer 2s now, like Tyco, Meld, and Red Belly network, who have all done extensive DD, both on our code base and legal setup. I've run through this because I think it's most interesting to take questions rather than go through slides, but this is also my contacts in case you want to chat at a later point in time.
Wonderful. Thank you, Fabio. That was cool. I guess it was probably everything I expected when I read that it's a mix of my favorite Web2 tools for Web3. So while we are waiting for the question, can I ask, so you guys definitely support streaming unlocks second by second, right?
Yeah, exactly. We have users can customize fully the distribution rate through the interface, down to the second, up to the years if they so want.
Amazing. I love it. I also like, guys from Superfluid are doing a great job. Shame that more people are not using it, but, I think it needs a little bit of abstraction and simplification, and then everybody will love it. Anyway, this is for our attendees. If you guys and girls have any questions for either Vince, Fabio, or Nestor, feel free to type them in. We'll try to answer them. I may have one more question actually about the TokenOps, because I'm pretty sure at least people I saw in the audience would ask about this. Like, what was the pricing policy for TokenOps? Do the investors, get their part for free if I'm using TokenOps for my project, or do they have to pay for their part?
Yeah, so we do custom pricing normally based on the needs of the project. Some large projects have to build very custom interfaces for their token claim. Some ask us to add also staking contracts. So it's normally very much based on need. And also, like, there are also free tools in the market. So for projects that are, cash strapped, we suggest them to go for free tools. Say on average, our pricing goes between 3 to 10K per year, based on the level of assistance needed. In terms of what's available for investors, so the claim portal is available for investors and community to claim if the project is one of our clients. What we have on top, which actually it's also free to use, is our portfolio management system for VC. So if you are a large angel investor, a large VC that needs to monitor tens, if not hundreds of portfolio companies, and when you need to claim tokens from each of these, that's where you can start using our enterprise product for fund management.
Nice, wonderful. And I actually love the fact that because the space is moving very fast, so that you guys are open to sort of like add some custom stuff for the project, because a lot of them are kind of different. Maybe one last question from my part, and then I give a chance to panelists ask questions, because we have no questions from the audience. Which chains do you guys support?
So currently we are active on all EVM chains. Basically, so we are active in all the protocols that are supported for the protocols that we support. So if Sabir or Superfluid are on Optimism, it means we can support Optimism. While with our own smart contract, we have the flexibility to deploy it also on chains where the protocols that we have already integrated are not or do not want to go. So, for example, Tyco is one of our customers themselves. So we are on Tyco, and Tyco is also one of our users. And same with other for a long pipeline of L2s that are going to launch in the next year. So we can go more chains as demand rises.
All right, awesome. I think, because there are no audience questions, I think it's fair to say that for everybody who registered and everybody who had a chance to attend, that the recording will be distributed in the coming days. And I am going to hand it over back to Vince, because he is the man behind the event.
Thank a lot, Peter. Thank you very much for hosting. I did have one more question. I'm very it's curious to see that didn't got asked by anybody else. Everybody knows about these unlocks happening through linear or exponential ways. But you mentioned, I think, a very interesting one, which we also are seeing more in our projects, and it's milestone based. Could you elaborate on that, and also what the integration looks like between TokenOps and the actual smart contracts to facilitate that?
Yeah, so we developed recently a second smart contract to support milestone-based, because it's a use case that a lot of foundations have, especially for grants, team contribution, and broader ecosystem incentive, right? So the way this could be implemented is, let's take the example of grants. You want to give grants to incentivize people to build on your protocol, but you also want to make sure that you then just don't give money for free for people to just go and party and go on holidays. So what you can do through our interface is set up some milestones that the projects need to achieve. The project can see that their tokens are there, assigned to their wallet unequivocally on an immutable smart contract, which is open sourced on the blockchain. But you, as a project founder, can release them only when certain milestones are achieved. So the grantee, the receiver of the tokens, can come back to the claim interface and only be able to interact with the smart contract if you so authorize. Grants is one of the use cases. Another one that I find very interesting is team and community incentives. So you are a DeFi protocol that needs to achieve a certain number of TVL. You can put an incentive program for which, if that TVL is achieved on your protocol, everyone is going to get more tokens unlocked for themselves. And through our claim interface, you can clearly see which wallets are receiving such incentives. And by typing into the form what are the metrics that you're going to use to unlock those, you can be extremely transparent. Everyone that is not technical can come to the interface and understand what are the milestones to be achieved.
Yeah.
Another interesting use case, which is not only for your own native token, but you can also use it for any ERC20. So if you want to give incentives in USDC, you can also do it with locking USDC in our milestone contract. Yeah, it's basically for employee compensation. So you want to incentivize your team, or putting in the extra effort, and then you can have this milestone that are even a mix of like your native token and USDC or stable coins that get unlocked when certain milestones are achieved.
Yeah, interesting. And if you talk about, for example, the second use case, which is unlocks when you achieve a certain TVL, is it like a manual unlock, or is it using like a Oracle or a data source to actually verify that?
Yeah, so for now we built a simple version, so it's manual. There is a level of trust in the project founders, in the admins that are administering the token distribution. Of course, the next iterations would be having oracles and having the process to be more transparent, more automated, and less reliant on human failures. Yet, if you think that until 2, 3, 4 years ago, people were doing manual vesting by just sending tokens manually when the vesting conditions were unlocked, were reached, this is already like a big step. Towards automation and transparency.
All right. I see also one more question. I'll just address it. I'm not sure if it's directed to anyone specifically, but what's the average success rate for tokens for most common ones? I think it's a very open question because I'm not sure what you mean by success rate. I would really distinguish between like tokens that are not meme tokens to start with. Because there are so many tokens out there that are meme tokens that are just being generated through like token as a service solutions, that it's just about putting tokens on the chain. I think maybe the success rate would be comparable to any startup, because I think a lot of tokenized businesses can consider themselves a startup in the early stages. Not sure, what do you think, Fabio or Nestor?
We published an article earlier this year analyzing a bit what happened in the market. Actually, in this past year, I think 80% of tokens launched on Binance had their price drop 50 to 80% after listing. And that was mainly due to launching with high FTV and low float, which it's linked again to what I shared with the beginning of my presentation. So if the more your supply is locked, is not vested, the more you're going to have price volatility, because mainly it's now well known that when unlocks happen, investors dump and the price decrease. So community tend to not buy the token and wait until it's fully unlocked and the price action has finished its course to go then come in. Also because the valuation of many projects in the last cycle, also in 21, 22, was completely nonsensical and astronomical. And since this is still a relatively small business, small industry with many smart people, nobody wants to sort of like buy the bag of the VC, right? So a lot of people are sort of waiting for the price action to go down to then get a good deal, similar to what the VC or the team has got. So this is what the data shows. Of course, the last year has also been, going a bit sideways in terms of where the market was, where BTC and ETH were, and also where macroeconomics was. So the Fed only started decreasing rates a couple of weeks ago. So it was a big expectation of the Fed cutting rates and having an injection of liquidity in the market that has only started to happen literally 2 weeks ago. So what has happened in the past few years is not necessarily indicative of what's going to happen in the next few years. But if you ask me, again, the fact that there's a lot of smart people in this industry, but there is still very few people in this industry, sort of everybody being very smart, the price reflects how smart people are in the industry. So there's a risk of many token launches not being successful, which is why I think we're having this session, so that you can prepare for it, get the right tokenomics, get the right setup, get the right community management in place, so that you can create the right expectations in the market, and rather have a community that moves with you and treats you like a meme coin, so like something that they want to believe and support, rather than having an antagonist type of behavior between the token holders and the project founders.
Yeah, that could be a very good topic to add to the next version of the event, to look at that go-to-market and how to manage your community. I think it's very relevant as well when you build in public. Yeah. So anything you wanted to add to that, Nestor, before we start rounding up?
I'll have just very short comment related to the lockups from the legal perspective. Sometimes in some of the countries, it's just the regulatory requirement to lock the tokens for some period of time to decrease the risks that the token might be qualified as the security. And it usually brings more transparency for the market, because it ensures that the founders will not, or the other core contributors or team members will not be able to manipulate with the token price at the early stage, because their tokens are locked. So yeah, that's probably the very short comment, less economical, less technical, but more like from the compliance perspective.
Definitely relevant and good to know. Thanks, Nestor. So I just want to thank everybody who joined us today for this session. For me, it was very insightful, and especially the deep dive that you, Nestor, and Fabio, you've provided were to me also very valuable, even though I've been working hands-on in the space for the past 4 years. And yeah, I think as we wrap up, remembering that tokenization is not just about launching a token, but building that sustainable model, having that foundation around your the legal entity, ensuring that your business objectives are aligned with your community needs, and whether you're in the planning stages or already operating a token, having the right tools, especially also when bringing it to market, like Fabio shared, are just very critical. And what I'm going to do is I'll be sending out a short questionnaire after the webinar, and it will also include the link for you to download or look back the video for those who didn't attend it. And you can also mention if you'd like to get connected to Fabio, Nestor, Peter, or myself, if you want to go more deeply into your questions. And it will also contain questions just asking your feedback on how we can make this a better session, and to reach more people, reach more founders and investors to educate. So big thank you, Nestor, Fabio, Peter, for attending and being here together with me today. And thank everybody for the participation.
Thank you, Vince. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.